Folks, here we are. I have Aristo on the other end, and he's, of course, in Greece, and I'm in Florida in the United States. And the title that we're working with today is Taking Back Our Frame of Mind, although that might change a little bit as we actually create the video. But I'm going to turn it over to you, Aristo, and we're now recording, and let's go.
Thank you very much, Ron. Thank you all. And when Ron came up today, and today, by the way, is the summer solstice, I believe, the first day of summer, and it is also a full moon. So it's a very interesting period. Celebrities, false flags, massacres, this and that, all over the world, confusion. I'm looking at my Facebook home feed, and it's just a mass of contradictory input, which wouldn't seem out of the ordinary because we're all different, and even if people who subscribe or whatever share stuff, and we have the same frame of, not the frame of mind as the title goes, but the same opinions or similar viewpoints, still things are so crazy, and they're going to get crazier. There was a video a while ago about a tunnel in Switzerland, and they did some kind of ritual that people call satanic. I may even talked about that in a recent video myself here with Ron. And essentially, this is something like things like this are popping up, for example. And what I see going on in things like this and related to this, rituals, the massacres, which seem to have a kind of ritualized theme, celebrities who are into the ritual of drama and enactment, somehow having accidents, a little more than normal, one would say. All of this is trying to get our attention and to program our attention toward a certain outcome. It's almost like a hypnotic suggestion. And then we see various modes of coping with it. Ron has his own modes of coping with it. We were talking about, for example, in his neighborhood, somebody came up and said, okay, the U.S. government has now been reclaimed by a constitutional government, it's going to be announced. And then all of a sudden, the same old, oh, the cabal has done another twisty-turny thing and is delaying the inevitable, as if it's a legal battle with an impartial judge. Who is the impartial judge that is going to oversee this kind of thing if all of the judges are controlled? If the system itself is controlled, who is going to arbitrate this alleged constitutional government, where constitutional governments, in my opinion, are supposed to be formed in a public manner, not in a private, behind the closed doors manner. I mentioned about elections because that's a public manner that I know of, and somebody said, oh, the elections are frauds. No, well, if this is a constitutional government, these elections will not be frauds. There will be an announcement, everybody come here and let's have a referendum. That's how constitutional governments are formed. There is a referendum. Napoleon formed his government behind closed doors. I am the leader. Mussolini formed his government. I declare myself the leader. Hitler declared himself, his party declared him the leader. What kind of constitutional government, so this is the logic here that seems to evade. You ask questions, you say, okay, because the trolls that go on various sites often pretend they're polite people, and they ask questions, and the questions get more aggressive and more intimidating, and then they skirt the issue, and then they create confusion. And we know that there's a mass operation of disinformation now, and it's escalating. Why is it escalating? Well, first of all, these people, let's call this the cabal or the operationals or the think tankers or whoever is the functionary for making sure that we not only obey, but that our energy, so-called, our awareness is offered, because there's also this other thing, and this goes outside of the mainstream. It's a little fringe, as it were, but now we're all fringe these days, I think, where attention creates reality. Attention manifests events. Attention fuels events. Okay, let's put it that way. So you do not create your own reality out of a vacuum, but a probability is more likely to manifest if you believe it will, if you pay attention. If a whole bunch of people say, oh, we're going to have a war, and keep focusing on it, then it is more likely that those who want war will have an easier time in facilitating it. However, this does not mean what you resist persists, because that's different. This is something that's inside of you, and it needs your attention. It's already there. I'm talking about fabricated attention. I'm talking about a narrative. So what the establishment wants to do is create narratives. Some of these narratives are their own agenda. Other narratives are skirmish narratives. They are there to confuse. They are there to contradict. They are there to deflate and attack your internal narrative. Your internal narrative is the frame of mind. What was our title again?
Take back our frame of mind.
Frame of mind, yes, our frame of mind, and I got the word frame because I'm looking at the little windows here on the screen with our frames here. We are framed. What is a frame? A frame is a containment. It's a boundary. It's where I stop and you begin, or the other reality begins. It's where I am held and I am secure and I am owned, self-ownership. This is where what I think is mine. Yes, I do believe that there are what you may call thought forms or influences, and sometimes we are hijacked by memes that really we would never believe in if we weren't constantly bombarded with them. So no, they are not ours per se, but we have adopted them, we have let them in, we have opened the door, and sometimes it's because of repetition, knock, 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 knock. Eventually you open the door to the tiresome salesman. Sometimes it's by force, sometimes it's by seduction, sometimes it is by stealth. To claim back our frame of mind, that's like reclaiming everything that's in our house. First, we have to affirm that our frame is secure, that we know the difference between what's on the inside of us and what is on the outside. Now, the establishment, and let's not say the establishment, let's just say circumstances, because also our own defense mechanisms, our own messed up thought forms, our own wounds, our own ways of evasion and denial contribute to all of this. The malaise, the confusion, the unhealthy state, the enslavement, because when we do not find something, shall we say, kosher that's inside of us, we repress it, we justify it, we move it aside, we turn it, we place it in terms of right and wrong and try to pretend we're right. We do all of these things so we don't face the dissonance, the emotional dissonance, the cognitive dissonance, all of these dissonance effects. And if we face them, then some people say what you resist persists. Well, in this case, denial is resistance. I mean, you're resisting what's inside of you. So let all these things come up and say, well, okay, I have this sensation that's like fear. It's fear. But don't make a Hollywood production out of it. You don't have to do that. Okay, some people don't like the rather forward and passionate way I say that don't do this, don't do that. Well, it goes without saying that if I don't say this, then it diminishes the sense of necessity. When I see a safe hanging over somebody's head and it's on a little tiny thread and it's about to fall, I'm not going to say, excuse me, sir, it is my honest opinion, and if you don't mind me saying so, that the safe is going to crush you flat if you don't move right now. But please, it's okay. It's only my opinion, and we can discuss it if you like. Meanwhile, the safe falls and he's flattened. So, of course, maybe I'm wrong. Maybe that little thread is actually a piece of high tensile strength steel wire that will not break. But no harm done if that's okay, and then I'm just an annoying person. But if I'm right, in this case, and I'm not a troll, and I'm not one of those people who wants to deceive you. I'm trying to find a nice balance between diplomacy and not compromising what I want to say. See, that's where they have us too. They brought us into political correctness with this incessant bull. And so we're sitting here wasting time with political correctness and propriety. this thing that fundamentalism has brought in with the old Quaker societies, where who knows what would be going on behind the scenes in the household. Who knows what nefarious pedophilia, this, that, and the other. Whereas on the outside, everybody's all smiles and properly dressed and gesticulating properly, and the etiquette is proper and everything's fine and dandy. They all go to church on Sunday. That's the kind of cultural bias that I see in many Western societies, especially in the U.S. society, across the board, regardless of race, color, or creed. Because as an immigrant in the U.S. society myself, I've observed that my parents and me wanted to be U.S., red-blooded Americans, whatever, and no matter what, And
were your parents here when you came to go to school here? Were your parents in the U.S.?
No, they actually returned to Greece,
okay.
Before, when I was in high school. My father first came to the U.S. around 1962, and then again in 67. And he stayed until 75, and then it was back and forth with his job in physics and stuff. So, but in 73, we became citizens. We were here 5 years, and I was naturalized because I was born in Greece. I have a little brother. He was born here. But anyways, our whole thing was we wanted to be American. My father was different. He was like I am, because he's a researcher in physics, and back then they were recruiting people. And so, and this was cutting edge stuff back then. So they wanted to take him to some underground secret base in Montana, where even though he wasn't in the U.S. military and not a citizen, they would give him the rank of a major or a captain or something like that in the Air Force. And so as to instill that he was doing top secret stuff. And then other universities wanted to hire him, but these were all Masonically oriented. A lot of things like that. That's one of the reasons these so-called conspiracy theories are real to me. I've kind of heard rumors in the background long before the internet. And the point is that he still admired the American way. He admired the big freeways, the shopping centers, the organization, the external luxury of civilization back in the heyday, And of course, the poor neighborhoods and all of that was attributed to the people's fault. Oh, they're this minority, that minority, yeah, they're all dirty. Like us, the immigrants, we're all from poor, dirty immigrant countries, and now we came to clean ourselves up to the U.S., And the same thing I notice in some European countries, where they're a little more, industrialized, let's say. There is a certain bias that, in a way, is a good thing because national identity is better than being absorbed by this New World Order crap. No identity at all in the sense of, somebody who isn't yet mature enough to have a self-sustaining, shall we say, culturally independent identity.
Can I ask you a question about?
Yes.
Have you been in France lately?
That's one. Have I only skirting the boundaries? I've never really been in the center.
Okay, because I've seen reports that the French people are really standing up to the so-called New World Order, and they're calling the government's bullshit, basically. I don't know. Have you heard any rumors or read anything about that?
Yes, this is on the internet. There's basically, and it says it's a media blackout, but there's a lot of internet stuff going on. There's 1 million people now up in arms, and I'm not sure about the details, though, because all of these movements are infiltrated. They would be. I mean, it's not just a bunch of people screaming, but then again, even if people are outraged and even if they're organized, the organization is going to be compromised. So this can easily be like an Arab Spring. You have Soros organizations within every union, within every type of organized situation. So people, there's all this talk about the crisis in Greece, but what I see is other European countries that are allegedly stable, there's just, there's the same unemployment, there's the same poverty, there's the same immigrant crisis. It's not better off. So there is something going on, and this was my point with all of these rambles, is that they're taking our frame of mind, okay? They think they own it. That's a good thing. They're overconfident, but they know that they can't be overconfident. See, they take our frame of mind and they take fluid situations like the thing in France, and we want to define it. Is it good? Is it bad? Is it them? Is it us? Is it real? Is it not? Well, it's everything. It's a fluid situation. People are up in arms, but then you have the establishment who wants to control it. They don't want you to establish an opinion about it. They don't want the public to say, this is it, and place attention on it. Because this is the pattern I've noticed. Attention begets probability into manifestation. Attention facilitates that. Why would they have some ritual with claiming the underworld allegedly, and all these fundamentalists who are allegedly anti-Cabal, so to speak, are saying this is satanic? No, it's not satanic. How do they know it's satanic? Where do they come up with that? I mean, just if you're an anthropologist, if you're a historian or whatever, or a sociologist, you know that that kind of costume is just pagan. It's not satanic. It's not the Christian Satan thing. And then again, where do these symbols come from? I mean, you can interpret them in so many ways if you are occult savvy, if you understand the symbols, but most people don't. So they're told what the symbols are. And the symbols are interpreted for them. So they place attention on the whole thing and say, this is what it is, and it's happening. And then the subliminals take on a whole other meaning than what they would originally take on if this was read the way that the other folks, the dignitaries or the people inside the Cabal would read the symbols. See, you're told one interpretation, the dignitaries have a whole different interpretation. They are trying to rape the underworld, and yet the fundamentalists say they're opening up the underworld and all the evil is coming from below. So the earth is evil. And that's one of the things, even you came up and said, this world is terrible and I hate it. No, yeah, the world is...
That was the current video, the one that...
Well, what's the world? What's your definition of the world?
The world is the system. Earth is the planet. Earth
exactly.
Is evil.
Okay, so there are two different...
The system is where negative stuff has infiltrated, and not simply infiltrated, but taken control.
But the world is essentially everything. It includes the planet, the system, everything together. The matrix is the system. That's the thing. And they call it the matrix because it's an artificial construct. The world is not an artificial construct. It's the nature. It's all that is. These are subtle things. I know how you mean it. But when you say it that way, your own subconscious, though, knows that the world, because you use the word world in other contexts. I want to take over the world. I don't want to take over the system. I want to take over the planet. But I still use the word world. So our frame of mind, even though you have a sincere sense of feeling here, even though you're outraged and you hate the way things are, which is a natural emotion, I'm outraged, I want to do something, I'm crazy, but then it's misconstrued into a different frame. You're taken out of a frame of natural outrage and injustice and put into a frame of, so you're one of us. You don't like the world. Let's all destroy it together. So that means you're contributing energy to the population reduction we all want to do, without even knowing it. The thing is, you say, well, I don't feel that's true. No, you're not doing it consciously. But the thing is, a lot of people listening to the video can get that impression. And getting that impression makes them reflect back to you this whole other zone. And you subconsciously have used the word world in a different way. It's basically being responsible for our own thoughts. Knowing our frame of mind. Is it our true frame of mind? Are we honest with ourselves? Am I just angry and I want to bash something in front of me because to get it out, to release my tension? Or is this a more, shall we say, the kind of outrage that's more politically correct? An outrage where we're upset, so let's discuss this and see what we can come up with, in that sense, which isn't really an outrage. It's just a philosophical debate or some kind of intellectual upwelling. I don't know. The thing is, we're segregating our deepest, most primal emotions that the system is trying to turn within us from this other thing, this guilt trip that's called political correctness, and then this other guilt trip of religion. And of course now religion, because that's the old brainwashing, a lot of people are blaming that. It's like you can't blame the program for what the programmer wants to do to you. The program is an inert thing. It is not a living thing. It's dead. Your reception, it's like blaming the drug. No, it's, you know, there's a needle and there's a drug in it. Now, who put the needle in your arm? That's one thing. The second thing is who gave you the needle, you know? And the third thing is who's financing the one who gave you the needle, and how did they fucking create the whole system that forces the needle to come to you when you are tempted to put it in your arm? It's not that easy. And that's why this talk is not that clear, probably. But the bottom line is, it's very, very important, in my honest opinion, to look for the framework that is ours and to reframe our thoughts, to reframe our emotions, and to say, okay, is this drama really connected? Because drama is not an expression of emotion. Drama is the narrative, the context narrative through which the emotions express. I mean, if I feel anger, I can sit there and I can see that I can bite my teeth and I can tense up, or I can scream, or I can go violent, or I can keep taking deep breaths and feeling what this anger is inside. And I can understand myself better because the anger is really a voice telling me something in a different language. Fear is a voice telling me something, and it's not just get the fuck up and run. You know, it's not just that. There's something else going on, because even that primitive voice, even that animal-like incentive, is a voice of wisdom. And that is what's trying to be expressed, you know, repressed, because the demonization of the so-called underworld, which has been open for a very long time, believe me, I mean, it's been open, at least in the sense of what they mean, the transformation and all of this, you know, this whole century has been an opening of the underworld, with all of the, you know, primal stuff coming to the surface, and the occultisms being done, and the necessity for transformation, and just the amount of information bombardment and stimulation on the global populace is creating a kind of vortex, you might say, that's opening up the collective unconscious. There's more going on now information-wise than has ever gone on the mental plane. It's a churning. And they want to take advantage of it because they cannot. I mean, they're having little wars. They're going around sacrificing people. Some of them are known, some of them are not. And then there's the so-called theories that say, well, maybe some of them aren't even sacrificed. Maybe some of them are just put into some kind of pleasure island, and you know, with their faces changed, and they say, okay, you died, you did your part. Now you get to play a different role. Anything can happen. And most of us are upset because we don't know. And I'm saying, well, you don't need to know. It doesn't matter. Because your own frame has nothing to do with any of that. It doesn't matter what the narrative that they're trying to throw you is, because when there was no internet, people were dying every day and nobody seemed to matter. It didn't make a difference. It didn't seem to make a difference. Even when there was television back in the day, you know, and that was it, or just newspapers, there were wars and rumors of wars, and until it came to your front door, it didn't matter. All of a sudden, everybody has compassion only when the system decides to throw one image on the screen. And then some people on their own initiative take their own images. There are people I see on Facebook and other media who take all these happy images, nice things, family photos, and that's well and good. But it's all using the media to establish, you know, let's uplift now. We've had enough of that. Let's do this. But it's still a kind of separational thing, in my honest opinion. It's like, look, man, you can't separate your family from the negativity forever. And you can't separate yourself from it because it's within you now. It's injected in you. You know, pretending it's not there, or segregating your time, saying, okay, the morning I'm going to deal with the negativity. In the afternoon, I'm going to do my day job. In the evening, I'm going to be uplifted. Even that doesn't really work. You need, again, this is my habit, you need. For me, it is a need. I need to establish a situation where I own my framework, my narrative. Even if it seems your narrative is diluted, but at the same time, it needs to be realistic if it's going to have impact. If it's going to have impact in the sense of resisting the narrative that's artificial. In other words, being honest with ourselves and accepting that, and understanding what our emotions mean. you don't hate the world. I know that. You know, if you hated the world, you'd be grabbing a gun and doing something about it, or you would be not doing videos. Somebody who hates the world because you say you love people and all of this, God is love and this and that and the other. But the thing is that, well, God is everything. Love is basically something that encompasses everything, and it can include reversal. So true love evolves a situation and takes out, okay, this is meaningless, but we've given it the benefit of the doubt. Oh, it's sticky now. And if we unstick it, it's like pulling off a scab, we can wound ourselves more. So we have to be very, very careful in creation. Doesn't matter how powerful God is, it's how sensitive we are. That's why this is taking so long. It's our frailty that's causing the situation to be very, very sensitive. It has nothing to do with God. How can God go around our frailty? Well, we don't want some superpower coming in and taking over and whatever, because that would be a violation no matter, and it would be unloving. So then you say, well, is promoting all of this suffering still loving? Well, the suffering needs to come to the surface because there's more than just people and animals and plants involved. There's a whole awareness dynamic. There's the planet itself. There's more than just a planet. There's a level of existence that goes even deeper, a substratum that's even deeper than all of that. Call it goddess, if you will. Call it the true, the Shekinah, like the Hebrew Kabbalists call it, you know, the actual bride of God, you know, the actual substratum out of which we grow. Anyways, it's very hard to speak about worldly matters for me without getting even a little bit mystical. And it's hard to get a little bit mystical without seeming to twist away from a logical framework. That's why I urge everyone, and it's not even a matter of doing your research, because if you do research, the data you get, how do you know it's reliable? Because other people said it. That's the thing. We live in a world of insecurity. People are going to come down to the wire and saying, well, the only thing that I know is my heart. That's all I know. And whatever my heart tells me, but my heart can be deceived because my heart can be manipulated because it's tied to my head where all these other programs are. So I believe that we do, if we want a better world, we have a responsibility to first clear our frame, wipe the dust off, and then we can wipe the dust off the mirror that's within the frame so we can have a clear image of our own being. And then we know what's going on, because anything foreign, we can deal with it. Then, in my honest opinion, what we call a psychic immune system activates, and our reality frame cannot be hijacked from us. Then we'll see what the so-called KABAL does in that sense. But I don't think they will do anything because they're doing the same thing, and you have to have one person affecting millions of people with something they say, and that ain't going to happen. There's so much contradictory stuff. So it's in our best interest that change happens under the radar right now, because if it did happen too overtly, you would have a massive campaign against it at the physical level. Right now, it's not quite at the physical level, and I think that's a good thing. So I urge people to take hope and find it within themselves, and they can find it by taking charge of their own frame of mind, their own frame of heart, their own frame of reference. I believe it can be done. I believe we are structured that way. And I apologize if I've gone a little over.
Actually, you're not quite a half an hour yet.
Oh, really? I see you looking at the, you know, okay.
Almost, Aristo.
Okay. Well, I'm going to quit while I'm ahead then. I don't want this to sound like it's preaching. But, and it's very, like you said, informal. I mean, we spent about half an hour just trying to get the pictures going. And you never know. I didn't know what this topic was going to be like. But there is a constant thing, and you can see it with yourself. Now that you look at the narrative of your life in the last 3 or 4 years, that's the interesting thing here. That's why if I did my own videos, I'd be speaking about different things in a different context. But since it's with you, there's a narrative here going on where you have gone through a situation where you have met people, you've been disappointed, somehow you were attacked, you didn't know who's attacking you, you may be blaming the wrong people, you may be blaming the wrong people for attacking you, or you may be blaming, I don't know what. If there's even a reason to blame anybody, you're fed up with it, you become a little more cynical, Before you were more idealistic, then somewhere in between you tried to get more grounded. And yet the same pattern comes out. They reach out to you and tell you, oh, yeah, it's going to be solved tomorrow. Because if it isn't solved tomorrow, we're doomed. I don't believe that. I don't believe we're doomed. I believe that all of the suffering in the world is a call for us to be individually responsible, and eventually events will conspire in our favor, because if you look at what the establishment is doing, they don't just take over. They could do that. It doesn't matter if 1 million people rise up. They can. Zbigniew Brzezinski said it's easier to kill 1 million people today than convert them. And yet they're still stuck on converting us, because they can't kill us if they don't convert us to a certain degree more. It's not feasible. It's not efficient. And they're going to have too much collateral damage. And because they are cowards, their own ranks are going to start betraying them. They're going to say, sorry, man, you're a bad deal. I'm just going to pretend I'm one of the good guys now, and pretend I was a double agent, and pretend I was who knows what. You're going to have a lot of people. If the cabal so-called falls, you're going to have a lot of converts, whistleblowers, all of these people for real, but only if it's safe to do so, you know. But that's not really an option either. That's not justice. I mean, what is justice is a situation where everybody is going to face the so-called truth about themselves, about their own responses, and so a healing can occur, and a healing can occur. But there's more going on than meets the eye. That's all I'd like to say here. But we can start with reclaiming our own frame of mind, heart, and being. Thank you very much, and namaste.
And thank you, Aristo. Namaste.